to chat to us today, but also congratulations on such an amazing album. I've had a chance to sit down and listen to this, and this is an absolutely amazing album, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start off by asking, what were you guys setting out to achieve with this album? Like, this album has turned out to be something absolutely special, but what were you hoping to achieve when you first sat down to work on this album?
Well, obviously there was, I guess, a bit of pressure there from us having released our first album and it having gained as much traction as it did. So for us, when we kind of sat down and went to go and write this, we really wanted it to be obviously still Alien Weaponry, but a bit of an evolution of Alien Weaponry as far as our sound went. But still kind of keeping to our roots.
You mentioned pressure. You guys were even described as the future of metal by one of the biggest metal magazines in the world. How do you deal with that pressure, like when it comes to working on an album? How do you brush that aside?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we don't really focus on stuff like that so much, and as far as songwriting goes, I think it has changed the way we songwrite a little bit, but I think what's changed the way we do things a lot more is actually being on the road and experiencing, I guess, other bands and what they're capable of, and that's been mostly what's inspired us in terms of actually, writing and evolving our sound. So I think I wouldn't say it's easy to, I guess, put that pressure aside, but as far as the pressure goes, I mean, it's there, but it's something that we try not to think about.
Yeah. There's a lot of deep things that you guys talk about on this album: climate change, illegal fishing, and things like that. Tell us a little bit about the things that were inspiring the actual lyrics for this album and the things that you wrote about.
I guess the thing that really sparked me to want to write the title track, Tangaroa, was last year I was going up for a surf with one of my friends, and this was just after a storm, so the sea was washing up a lot of stuff, and the amount of plastic that I saw washed up on the beach was pretty mind-blowing. Like, I didn't quite have a grasp on how big the problem was until I actually went out and kind of saw it myself. And I definitely think that was like a big starter in writing that. And also, just as far as, what the ocean and what nature means to Māori culture, it's definitely a big part of it. So I think it fits in really well with that as well.
Kind of ties everything together, with everything being affected by the ocean. I think that's kind of why we decided to name the album Tangaroa as well. But yeah, as far as the other tracks on the album go as well, we generally just write about either what's on our mind at the time or something that has inspired us recently to write a song. So yeah, it is all very kind of sporadic where we draw our inspiration from and kind of what we decide to write about. So yeah, but generally it does come from a place of passion. Well, always comes from a place of passion about what we're writing about.
Definitely, and also capturing your culture in the music. I find that such a beautiful thing when I listen to your music. How important is that to you when you sit down to work on each album, that to let your culture shine through your music?
That's massively important. I mean, it's become a huge part of who we are as a band, obviously. So yeah, for us, I think it's something that I don't see us stopping anytime soon. share that with people is something that I want to keep doing for as long as we're a band.
Definitely. And the world has been a pretty crazy place over the last 18 months, and I know for New Zealand, you've had lockdowns the same as what we have here in Melbourne. How did that affect the writing and the recording of the album? Did you guys find it almost that you had more time to write because of the lockdowns, but did it make it harder to record?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So we got into the studio in March, set everything up for the drums, recorded probably 1 or 2 tracks, and then the government announced that we were going into lockdown. So we had to pack up all our toys and get home for a month. But that did, definitely allowed us to refine some things that maybe we wouldn't have refined in the studio, just because, we had that extra time to think about things and rewrite some things.
Did you do any home recording at all? Because I know some bands had to go to the home recording style of things because they couldn't get into studios. Were you able to do any of that, or did you just have to wait for the studios to reopen?
So we did do some of that, but that was kind of in the back half of the recording process. So we used that first lockdown as I guess more of a finding out what we could do to make the songs better, and so we went in and recorded drums, guitar, bass in a studio, and we came back here to Waipu. We've got a home studio up here as well, and we did all of the vocals, like the sound effects tracks, and a few guitar parts and a couple of bass parts up here as well. So it's a little bit of a mix situation there.
Yeah.
But I think, especially with the vocals, like having that kind of freedom to just experiment a little bit with the way we were delivering things, and not having this kind of huge pressure of being in a studio that's pretty expensive and you're having to pay for by, a day rate.
Yeah.
Is definitely something that I enjoyed a lot more than being in the studio with the kind of pressure involved in, I guess, making sure you get the right vocal takes pretty quickly. So yeah, we had a lot of time to tinker with things and tweak things, as well as the fact that we did all of the mixing and mastering up here as well. So we were way more involved with that process than the last album.
How did that feel for you guys? Did that take some of the pressure off, or did you feel more pressure because you were doing a lot of the mixing and mastering?
Well, I mean, it was kind of good not having to rely on people outside of the band to get all this done, which I think can be the bane of a lot of bands, is, relying on people that aren't directly involved with you all the time. It can get pretty difficult. So I think, it did take a bit of stress off, and, we were, I guess, more sure of things. And, if there wasn't something, if there was something that we noticed, we could just go and tweak it rather than sending it off in an email and going, hey, can you do this?
Yeah. And the lockdown since then, have you guys been able to spend that time working on new material, or has this been a great chance for you to recharge your batteries after the hectic few years that you guys had touring?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had a little bit of recharge time. I mean, in the space, we've also done a small New Zealand tour. That was last year around November, December. We did a 6-show tour, just the major cities here. And we actually did a kind of, it was a big undertaking for what ended up being one show, with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. So there was a lot of work involved putting all of that together and getting all of that sounding right. So we also did that. But as far as everything else goes, it's just been kind of practicing the new songs, making sure we're going to be able to play them, you know, I guess correct to the album live. And yeah, just I guess having a little bit of a recharge, as well as because of COVID. I mean, money has been down, so Lewis and I have been working day jobs as well, most days. So yeah, it's all a bit of a balancing act at the moment.
Yeah. Is there any way your fans can help you out at the moment with that? I know that's been a big thing for a lot of Australian bands as well, bands that have been touring full-time for 20, 30 years, and the guys have had to go and find jobs at the moment. Is there a way that your fans can help you out by buying merchandise and things like that?
Yeah, we've got a merch store. We got like a legacy merch store as well. We were selling some kind of, I guess, exclusive stuff on there where you can't really get it off our main merch stores. We've also got a Patreon, which is definitely like one of the places that we do, I guess, get a lot of the revenue that helps support us and keep going as a band, you know, funding tours and everything. And yeah, that's no Patreon as well.
Definitely. Well, we'll make sure that all of our listeners get onto that and support you guys. But I know we're running out of time very, very quickly. So I guess before I go, what would you like to say to all of our listeners out there before they go out and grab a copy of the album on the 17th?
Your eardrums.
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit of a face melter, I think. And you'll definitely enjoy it, especially if you like bands like Gojira and Meshuggah. I think we're putting a lot more of that influence into this album, as well as mixing it up as well. So it's an evolution of who we are as a band, and if you want to hear that, go and check it out. And to all of the people listening who do already listen to us and are fans, thank you, and we love you. And yeah,
Awesome.
anyone who doesn't, check it out.